County. You are listening to KPFZ 88.1 FM Community Radio. We are broadcasting live today from Lakeport. We are heard in Lakeport, Clear Lake, and all around the lake. We also stream live on the internet. So if you'd like to catch us on the internet, go to www.kpfz.org. Follow the prompts to Live 365, and you can catch us on the internet. This is Voices of Lake County, the second hour, Straight Talk with the Sheriff. I'm your host, Olga Martin Steele. In the studio with me is Sheriff Frank Rivero. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning,
Rivero.
everyone.
And on the boards, our board operator extraordinaire, Ann Newport. Hey, Ann. And before I get started with the show, which I will do momentarily, I want to do just a few public service announcements. The first announcements I want to do is for a town rally that will be held at Harbor Park in Lucerne on June 22nd from 11 to 2 p.m. This rally is for the community, Lucerne community, and anybody else that's interested, and all are welcome, to support the efforts of the Lucerne community to get their water rates in line with affordability. So this is a rally for everyone at Harbor Park from June 22nd, 11 to 2. You'll hear from elected officials and others about this problem and find out how you can support their efforts to get their water rates in line. The second public service announcement I want to make is for the Time Bank of Thrive Lake County. They're having a meetup brunch on Saturday, January 22nd from 10 to noon, and it will be held at the Community United Methodist Church in Middletown, which is at 15833 Armstrong Street. It starts at 10 and concludes at 12:30. It's a brunch. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions about how the Time Bank works, get to know what the Time Bank is, and if you want to stay after to get help on how to use the software and how to grow the Time Bank, you're welcome to do that as well. And that'll be from 10 a.m. in the morning till 12:30 p.m. All ages welcome, and admission is free. And the last public service announcement I want to make is to our veterans who are artists of one type or another. There will be a Veterans Art Show July 5th through July 31 at the Arts Center in Ukiah. So this is a call for artists, photographers, craftsmen who are veterans to show your art. And you can enter the second annual show honoring veterans at the Arts Center by contacting the Arts Center at 462-1400. That's 707-462-1400. Okay, with that bit of business out of the way, I want to say good morning to Sheriff Rivero. Good morning.
Morning, Olga. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Very good.
Good. All right, well, I always like to get started with kind of what's happened most recently, but I know you had a successful day in front of the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, it went reasonably well. We got what we were asking for, and I'm grateful for that support. This concerned the DEA funding. We were in line to get about $170,000 from the DEA, which is Drug Enforcement Administration, for those of you who are not familiar with that acronym. And we use that money for funding helicopter overflights for marijuana eradication. And, after, I would say, a bit of wrangling and some contentious time there at the board chambers, the board agreed with the sheriff's office that that money was necessary and appropriate, and they allowed me to sign off on that contract. And then the second item was just ratification of the contract for the helicopter use.
Oh, yeah. So every time the issue of marijuana comes up, you get people in the audience that, have various objections. And I always like you to explain really what is your policy on marijuana, and in particular with regards to legitimate medical uses for which Prop 215 is intended.
Well, legitimate medical uses, so we have no issue, or I have no issue with it all. And enforcement. I dictate the policy at the sheriff's office concerning how that's handled. Unfortunately, legitimate medical use has been hijacked by profiteers and cartels and other organized crime members to make a very tidy profit, and that's unacceptable. So it's incumbent on me to find out where that line is, which is often blurred. I mean, frankly, it really is, and then take appropriate action to make sure that the legitimate medical users are protected and the criminals are not.
Now, I notice usually when there's a large bust, if you will, that is publicized either in the newspaper or through Nixle, which is how I get my information, that there are almost always people from out of the state involved.
Yes.
There's sometimes and often, I think, local people, but there seems like there always is this out-of-state connection. And,
yes.
And often, aside from the marijuana, there's cash, and sometimes there are also weapons.
And other crimes.
Yeah, right, and other crimes, and sometimes you find other types of drugs, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, so these are the larger ones. So I haven't seen any. There is an ordinance now that allows the cultivation
maximum,
of...
If you have over 5 acres, the maximum that's allowed through the ordinance is 46 plants.
Right, so it is possible, and those are not the ones that you're really going after.
Well, we don't, frankly, I have no desire to go after a legitimate marijuana patient, but logistically, I don't have the ability either. I have to concentrate the resources of the sheriff's office on high-value targets. And somebody growing a few plants in their backyard is not a high-value target. A high-value target is 46,000 plants out in Middletown, or several thousand plants associated with high-powered rifles and assault weapons and other instruments that are only designed to kill people. I mean, for instance, that cache of weapons, and we just had another arrest where we got a cache of weapons that were, sophisticated military-style weapons, and those are used to protect these large grows. I mean, when you stop to think about it, 2,000 plant grow could net a person millions of dollars in a matter of a few months. The average individual in this country, it would take them a lifetime to make $2 million. So there's a lot of money involved in this, and I often look at this, or I equate it, or use this analogy to having a big stash of gold in your backyard. If you had gold bullions scattered around your property, well, that's going to attract the attention of a lot of people. And criminals are criminals. They're going to want to make the fast buck, and if they can rip these growers off, they're going to do it. And the flip side of it is that these growers who are looking to make these large sums of money are going to defend their income, and therein lies the violence problem.
Right, that makes sense. Now, I know that the ordinance has to be enforced, and that's primarily, and there are issues, I'm sure, that come up, neighbors, who disagree on the effects, to one or to the other of even the small grows. Do you get involved with these ordinance disputes that are actually handled through the control out of the Community Services Department?
It's actually code enforcement.
Code enforcement?
Yeah, community development handles that. We do if they call us, and they do on occasion. For many different reasons. Some of them it's because it's so far out of compliance that it's obviously illegal, and they'll notify us on that, or they have concerns about their safety. They're not armed, and those are legitimate concerns.
So those would be the circumstances under which the sheriffs, if it's in an incorporated area, where you would respond.
It's not something that we would cite under if the code enforcement officer and/or his boss decided that this was out of compliance, that would be handled administratively through the building department or the community development. They can cite criminally because the ordinance does have a criminal aspect to it, but generally these are nuisance abatement issues.
Okay, thank you for that. We're going to go ahead and take a call, and then I want to talk a little bit about the recall, and then I really want to get into a more results-based discussion with you about what results really are being produced under your leadership, of which I know there are many.
Okay.
So let's go ahead with the first call. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Frank.
Good morning, sir.
Are you a father?
Yes.
Happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you.
Anyway, I want to ask you a question, too, about, what's the law on, I got one of your election signs, and I put support, with integrity and whatnot, and cross out that elect, and whatnot. If I put that in my back window, will I get in trouble for driving around with that on my car or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I would check with maybe the election department or check with the building department. I know that, political signs have regulations.
Well, that's not a political sign, it's a support sign.
Yeah, and
I support you 100%, and that's a good analogy about that marijuana. When you're talking about the gold, that's a fact, and it's a cash crop, and it's cash and carry. And a lot of these guys are coming from down in L.A. and everywhere, and they're growing up here, and they're taking it out of state, and they're taking it like even to Florida, as far as Florida, and they're making good money on that marijuana. I mean, that's a cash and carry. It's a big, and a lot of them are hauled by U-Haul. A lot of them are being hauled out by U-Hauls. A lot of this crops are being hauled out here by U-Haul because that's under the radar. A lot of people don't realize how much crops are going up in U-Haul trucks that usually don't get pulled over.
Well, let me just say this: it's not under the radar. I'm fully aware of what they're doing, and we have a interdiction program.
They mail it through FedEx, and they don't check those packages. I know, they put them in coffee cans and whatnot. They freeze dry the bags, and they put them with coffee around them, and they mail them, and it's mailed a lot of times too. These packages, and if they put it overnight, they don't even have time to check it, and it arrives safely. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yes and no. Some of it arrives. I mean, you can't get all of it. This is a multi-pronged operation that we've been running since I took office. But part of it is a deterrence. When the individuals who are coming here to profiteer, and that includes cartels. I mean, we send them a message that this is not a profitable place to come and visit, because we are going to arrest you, and we will take your property, and we will make sure that you're appropriately dealt with when you're doing that activity, as well as any other criminal activity.
Right. That's.
So we have another call waiting already.
Well, good day to you, and you're doing a fine job, Frank. You hang in there.
And thank you, and happy Father's Day to everybody out there.
And the people that misinformation. I know you don't smoke, and that gal that called in last time and said that you weed across the line. I know you don't even smoke.
And as far as weaving across, lines, I mean, I drive carefully.
I know you're a safe driver, and I know that because you're one of those guys that was told to drive fast, and you said, "No, I'm not going to break the law." You're one of those guys that obey the laws. Because the rest of these guys don't want to obey the laws, but you do. Well, I commend you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the call. As always, caller, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Oh, doing all right.
Good.
Say, a few weeks ago, there was a rather large bust of a marijuana growing operation over in Clear Lake Oaks, where you collected a pretty substantial number of weapons, including, I believe it was 2 or 3 rather elaborate sniper rifles.
Yes, very elaborate. As a matter of fact, some of them, there was a system there that we also took out that would allow coordination for multiple snipers to have the ability to be directed from any area. There were things that I'd never even seen, like a Kevlar face mask that looked kind of like a Jason mask, but it was made out of Kevlar. I've never in my travels have seen anything like that before. There were Kevlar helmets, military-style flak jackets that could stop high-powered rifle rounds. There was one particular rifle that had been lauded as having the longest kill. In other words, from a sniper perspective, it's a military rifle, and it enjoys the reputation that it was able to take a guy out. I can't recall exactly how far it was, but it was a long distance away, and these were extremely sophisticated weapons, and there was a lot of them, and a lot of ammunition, a lot of high-capacity magazines to go along with those go along with those weapons. I mean, it was really actually quite impressive. From you're talking to somebody who likes guns, and I was looking through the cache, and there was a lot of things there that I had never seen before.
Yeah, it was definitely out of scale with your typical pot grow. But anyway, the thing that I was kind of wondering about is, I think it's been for almost a year now, there was a proposal put out there by the sheriff's office to buy some more of the handguns, the Glock 17s, and also purchase a sniper rifle for the sheriff's office. And I was wondering, is there any way you can do a asset forfeiture and take ownership of those rifles, or
yes,
at least the one that's most capable?
Yes, and we do that already, unless it's a federal case in which the assets belong to the federal government, and generally either they keep them or they're sold, and we get a certain percentage.
But they weren't involved in that case, were they?
As a matter of fact, they are.
Oh, so they might end up with all the goodies?
Well, that's the way the deal works.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious, because I know that rifle that you were contemplating getting was, I think, $4,000, and there's just
the rifle that was in possession in that particular case was well over $10,000.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean that was a very, very sophisticated, rare rifle. I think you'd be hard pressed to find it if you wanted to buy it. Again, these are military type weapons that have no business being in Lake County or anywhere else, frankly. I mean, they're designed and manufactured for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that's to kill people.
Wow.
Yeah, at a great distance.
At a great distance, that's exactly right.
So we have another caller. Did you want to ask another question quickly?
Well, I was just, anyway, if there's any way you can get us that rifle or one of those rifles, and
the money should stay in Lake County.
Great.
Well, we have an agreement that we have to keep with our partners in the federal government, and I'm happy to keep them. And by the way, there was a lot of talk at the Board of Supervisors by certain individuals talking about how horrid the federal government is, and I know that they have their issues. As with any government. But the truth is, my personal experience with the DEA has been a really good one. They have provided us with assets and assistance that allows us to complete operations that we couldn't have even dreamed of prior to their assistance.
Well, as long as they focus on people like that bust up in Clear Lake Globe, that's fine with me.
And they do, and they're respectful. We talk and we discuss issues and we coordinate, and they are very willing to stay within the parameters of what is,
So they're respectful of the local direction.
They're very respectful of the local direction. They're just absolutely wonderful to work with. I mean, the U.S. Attorney has been really good. The head of the DEA out here in Northern California, whose name I won't mention, is a really good individual. He's hardworking. He helps us. He's in touch with us, and basically anything that I request, he grants.
Well, on that note, we do have another caller waiting. Thank you for that call.
Sure thing.
Thank you, sir.
Caller, you're on the line.
Hi, guys. Good morning. This is Bruce. How are y'all?
Good morning,
Bruce.
Hey, listen, a couple of subject lines, fairly quick, I think. But if the first one is, if we could get the citizens get a RIMS update from you, Frank. The last we knew of anything was that the Board of Supervisors agreed that you and Donnie Anderson should contact the AG/DOJ vis-a-vis a request for an audit of the RIM system based on the judicial reports reporting of the illegal accesses that occurred on the citizens' files. A couple of questions associated with that. Number one, did Donnie assist you in that contact with the AG/DOJ?
No.
And he did not. Okay, that's the banter that's been going about. Even though he was directed to assist you by the Board of Supervisors or requested to. I know they can't direct him.
I was going to say they can't direct him or the sheriff. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And secondarily, I would assume because the supervisors indicated in that meeting that it was important for you to do so, and they agreed that they should be contacted relative to requesting an audit. Have any of the supervisors followed up with you on it, A, and B, have they also voiced their desire to have an audit done vis-a-vis their contact with AG/DOJ to make sure this gets done, and where does it stand right now?
Well, I have not spoken to any of the supervisors concerning that. I have contacted the Department of Justice, and I have asked them for their assistance, and I'd prefer to just leave it at that. As far as that, I don't want to get into any details at this point concerning the DOJ's involvement. As far as the Board of Supervisors getting involved, they have no authority to do so, so I would not expect them to do so.
No, and I don't mean get involved. I mean only relative to it would bode well for the citizens if, in fact, not only you, but our supervisors who requested it of you back you up vis-a-vis contact with the AG/DOJ.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't expect that to happen, but if it did, they're certainly welcome to voice their opinion concerning how they feel.
Let me ask just a follow-up question, and we do have another caller waiting. I think this is going to be a call-in show, but I am at some point going to ask you to hold calls because there's some information that I want the sheriff to be able to put out. But with regards to this issue, do you plan, or is there some thought to providing an update on the status of the DOJ's possible audit?
I prefer to wait till the investigation is concluded.
Okay. So,
and I don't have a problem with that, Frank. I understand the reason for that. Olga, you said you were going to discuss the status of the recall. I would just like to make a comment on that, or a little theory. It appears to me that they're having a horrendously terrible time even getting to 7,000. Last report shows them a little under 5,000. And when we think in terms of the last election, Mitchell got a little over 9,000 votes. You got a little over 11,000 votes. And despite hiring people, despite a huge influx of money from Rob Brown, and of course he's a controlling interest along with Chris Rivero in regards to this attempted recall. But here we are now, a couple of months into it. They obviously aren't going to make it by the 17th. It's going to push it out to give them another month to try to get just 7,000, which is going to take 7,500 or so to actually get 26 good ones. And now all of a sudden we're going to be out into February if the BOS called a special election, which would cost $100,000. And that would make that special election just a few short months away from when a regular election would be. It would appear to me at this point in time, there's 2 points here. It's unbelievable that they couldn't even gather the amount of signatures of people that voted for Mitchell in the last election, which was a little over 9,000. And it appears, in my opinion, then that this recall has failed miserably, and I guess that's an opinion. So you don't have to.
I was going to say, you're projecting that. Can I just, Bruce, I'm going to ask you one question, and then I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to have to take this other call. Okay. The question to you is, you mentioned that the recall was being financed by a couple of people, and is that a fact? Have they filed reports to that effect?
Yeah. When you get the contact information from our register of voters, and you look at the information that's on there, number one, all documentation, all information is sent to Rob Brown's address on Coal Creek Road. Not only that, the treasurer did not use her own address on the forms given to the register of voters, but also used Rob Brown's address. So all correspondence and monetary processes associated with the recall are going to Rob Brown and is being run by Rob Brown. That was my only mention monetarily. I did not say that Chris Rivera kicked in money, but Chris Rivera, former deputy, I believe, is heading up this attempted recall. Yeah. So that's where that comes from.
All right. Thank you for that clarification.
All right.
I'm going to take this last call, and then caller. I'm going to ask callers. I'm going to ask you to just hold your calls until I open up again for calls, because we do have some important information we want to get out. So, caller, you are the last caller for a few minutes. You're on the air.
All right. Hey, here's a twist for you, Frank. I'm not a user of marijuana, and I have no interest in it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And but the thing is, I mean, you were talking about earlier how these instant millionaires, within a few short months, where you could grow a crop. I mean, isn't this is what it would seem that, if our economy is so bad that, and, there are people, really struggling right now economically, that they should be thinking about maybe, allowing people to grow and sell. I mean, you would know, being in the business, that, it's a supply and demand.
Dennis, are you making a case for legalizing marijuana?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
if I can interject here, you can make the same argument about bank robbery or human trafficking. If it's profitable, so let's let everybody do it. I mean, that I believe that argument fails. But let me just say this: I do agree with you on one point. Marijuana should be legalized, but it has to be done nationwide, and then the value will drop dramatically. And R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris will set up their plantations, and they'll grow it, and then you can buy it in, convenience stores, and the entire profitability angle will go down the tubes, and so will the violence, because the violence is directly related to the profit. And I'm all for that. I frankly believe that it's a crying shame that this drug that is actually, in many ways less harmful than alcohol, in my opinion, and I'm just speaking for myself right now, and in many ways, and much less harmful than many of the not over the counter, but over the prescription type medication that doctors regularly prescribe, like oxycodone and Percocets and Oxycontin and other things for supposed pain relief that are extraordinarily addictive and ruin people's lives. Those are, by prescription. But here's the problem. There's an entire industry built around marijuana, and some of it's illicit and some of it is not. When you look at if you look at this from a macro perspective and you look at it objectively with, taking all the emotion out of it if you can, when somebody's arrested for marijuana, the bail bondsman makes money, then the lawyer makes money, then the judge is up there hearing the case, he makes money, his clerk makes money, the cops make money, the jailer makes money. I mean, it's just like
the grower makes money.
Well, and the grower's taking there's also a risk-benefit analysis to be had when the grower is making money off an illegal substance. But just to say we're going to let them do it because you can make money, well, then we could just say, well, let's all allow bank robbery to go on, and that doesn't work.
Okay.
It has to be orchestrated in a different fashion. But my own personal feeling on it is that this prohibition, it does not and is not working and should be addressed. But I just don't see that anytime in the horizon.
So thank you for the call, Dennis. You always come up with something interesting. Talk to you later.
Yeah, okay. Bye.
Bye-bye, Dennis. So, callers, I'm going to ask you to just hold calls for just a few minutes. I'm going to do a station identification, and then we're going to get back to Straight Talk with the Sheriff. And I was going to ask you to comment on the recall, but I think we already had that discussion. So we'll go right to some of the crime statistics and the results. So, you are listening to KPFZ 88.1 FM Community Radio. We are broadcasting live from Lakeport, heard in Clear Lake, Lakeport, and all around the lake. You are listening to Voices of Lake County, the second hour, which is Straight Talk with the Sheriff. I'm your host, Olga Martin Steele, and with me in the studio is Sheriff Frank Rivero. We just concluded a fairly in-depth discussion about marijuana, and now I'm going to switch the conversation to a discussion about results, because as a citizen, I want to know that the Sheriff's Department is doing their job. And frankly, their job, and I think your job, Frank, is not to be distracted by the recall or anything else. It is to produce results on the ground for the people of this county. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and ask you to go through some of the crime statistics that you can claim since taking office.
Well, there was an issue made by one of the two candidates who are vying for the position of sheriff and hoping to do it through this recall measure. And he used general crime statistics, and I just want to preface this by saying that the AB 109, which is the realignment and the release of the early release of prisoners from the state prisons, has been a game changer in law enforcement altogether and in corrections. I mean, it has turned everything upside down, and I'm not going to get into the AB 109, but the bottom line is that there are a lot of dangerous criminals out there that are involved in a lot of crime that shouldn't be on the streets, but are on the streets because of the governor and the legislature's decision to go ahead and realign what they call realignment, which is the release of prisoners, and also making the local county sheriff responsible for the housing of what they call the three nons, and the nonviolent, and it's all nonsense.
It's a double impact, because it's the release of people to the streets, to the jurisdictions they go back to on parole, and then it's also the prisoners now that end up in your jail that previously ended up in prisons.
That's true.
So it's kind of a double whammy on you.
And before I get into these stats, I'd like to commend the Corrections Division for the job that they've done. We, for all intents and purposes, are running a state prison here locally in Lake County. When I started office here, I had about 170 prisoners. And when I took over, I had about 170 prisoners at the jail. It regularly hovers over 300 at this point in time. That's a big increase.
And in many cases, a very different type of prisoner, and a prisoner that certainly is incarcerated for more than a year, which is typically what your jail was set up to handle.
Correct. We have prisoners there that are serving 13, 14-year sentences right now. That's a long time, and that causes all kinds of problems, health problems, taking care of them you take a guy who's, goes into prison at 50, he's got a 20-year sentence. By the time he's close to serving his sentence, he's a geriatric patient, or could be, because prison's a tough life. And then, you have all the associated issues. I mean, everybody has health issues, and either they have private insurance or they Medi-Cal or however they're handling it. But in this particular case, it's foisted on us to make sure that we provide them the care that they need. I mean, they are in our custody, and we have to take care of them.
Well, we've had a number of shows that we've really dedicated to the jail, and I think it's probably a good idea to do that again. I know you said up to 300.
No, not up to 300, over 300.
Over 300, that's huge. Yes. So I think...
And it was really foisted on us quickly, but there's been no looking ahead. In the previous administration, there were phases to the Lake County Correctional Facility that you had the original facility, then you had phase 2, and there were actually other phases that were looked at and planned but never acted upon.
Yeah, I know during the campaign, actually, it was known that this was in the offing.
Well, it was in the works, and I opposed it. I was, if not the only one of the few sheriffs that opposed it. Now, not all, but most of them do oppose it because they've seen the end result. I thought that it was predictable at the time that this was going to be a huge problem because it doesn't just impact the jail. It impacts patrol because you're dealing with sophisticated individuals who are willing to fight it out with you, who are willing to not go back, who are out now and enjoying their freedom and still committing crimes. And so you're contacting people who are very dangerous individuals, and that impacts patrol on many different levels. Sure. The danger potential for the officers contacting these people is enormous. Their level of sophistication and ability to understand the law enforcement and understand the system and adjust